Jab much on the beat.
Hey, let's go with 4 driving back. It's gonna be a curveball. Let's go, Jose. Oh, you got back. Guys, I know we got a show to do, but I got to go take care of an errand. Look, y'all go in there. I need y'all to be on your best behavior, and I'll be back soon.
Yes, sir. I guess I'll have some candy while Jeremy's gone. Sure does look good. It ain't Halloween yet, but I guess I'll have some.
Oh, no, he won't. Perfect, perfect.
Tennessee, well. Florida State, Mike Norvell, yeah. Little NASCAR action.
All right, guys, we ready for the show? Come on, we got to be ready. Look, no more candy stealing. No more messing with each other's desks. Let's be ready.
How did he know?
How did he know for real, guys? Welcome to another episode of JS Report. I am joined by Jeremy Wilbur. Jeremy Wilbur is a FCA, Fellowship Christian Athlete, director for the area, city of Memphis, and surrounding areas as well. Jeremy, welcome to the JS Report.
Glad to be here.
Jeremy, football season, but I'm not going to put you on the spot regarding any teams or anything like that. But just talk about like what you do for the Shelby County, Tipton County, and surrounding areas for our city.
Yeah, so I got the opportunity to oversee FCA, as you said, Fellowship Christian Athletes, for what we call Greater Memphis, which is Fayette, Tipton, and Shelby County. So what does that provide us the opportunity to do? And we do the best we can to go around to the schools and love on teams, right? Whether it's sharing with the teams, building character with the teams, serving the teams. A lot of ways we do that, but that's our number one goal, is to come alongside a coach and help him as he invests in his athletes or she invests in her athletes, whatever it might be at that school.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I got to see firsthand last year how y'all usually do things. The Bramlett Award, you know, that up front and personal at the Hilton Hotel. Mm-hmm. Y'all did a great job hosting that event. As always, y'all do a phenomenal job with that. But just talk about your workers. What do they do on a regular basis? Yeah,
so on a regular basis, our staff is they, in a roundabout way, they're salespeople, right? I say that in the fact that their job is to go to the school and do everything they can to be a part of that school. So they have certain schools based on the area that they're responsible for, and their job is to get to know the coaches, get to know administration, get to know the athletes, and be involved any way they can.
Absolutely. I got to be in FCA in high school. That's how I really... Like, we had an FCA club where we didn't have no speakers or anything like that. We just had, like, you know, where people, me managed the basketball team in high school. Right. We really just got all together with all the athletes, and we just shared what we had going on throughout the week, or just maybe just prayed together, you know, that type of stuff. Yeah. So when you go in these schools, like, can you give us an example? Yeah, so there's different ways, right? So we have what's called campus huddles, which are multi-sport huddles that meet before school or after school, to where students from all different sports backgrounds, someone don't even play sports, come together, do what you said, right? Sometimes they have a quick little Bible study, sometimes it's to play games, sometimes it's just to pray before the day starts. And then other things that we have is we have what we call team huddles, which is where we go into the schools, and if a coach allows and a school allows, it's all voluntary based. We don't mandate it for them, but if the team and the coach and the athletes that want to be a part, we do what we call huddles with the team. So we share with the team a pregame talk on a Thursday afternoon before the game on Friday, or even after the meal on Friday. We share something normally about character, but some type of devotion, some type of talk on character to encourage them
before their game.
That's my take one. All right, my take two, we're going to talk about a little bit of a summer program that you usually do during the summer. You do basketball and football, so just talk about that. We all do for that.
Yeah, so we do camps in the summer. So summer's a big time, a busy time for us. This past year, we took local teams to a girls basketball camp, to a boys basketball camp. Actually took a team to a girls volleyball camp.
Nice.
We have a thing called a competitors camp, which is where we take athletes of all sports away to a camp with other athletes and students from across the state. And then we have our local football camp, which is probably the largest camp that we do for local football teams the first week of pads.
Yeah, right before dead period, before it gets too hot.
Yeah.
Well, is this
So,
still
yeah,
hot?
so our team camps are, some of them are before dead period. During dead period is when we do our competitors camp, because it's downtime, they can't practice.
Right.
So it's a good time that they're free. And then the football camp is actually a part of their season to where we provide scrimmage opportunities and those type of things.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot now because you got to see some teams, throughout when you were actually hosting it.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give some teams some credit that you might have saw that you might be impressed with?
Yeah, so we saw some teams, obviously, Germantown, right, which everybody talks about that, just numbers. They've got quite a few talented guys that will probably be playing at the next level.
Right.
So obviously they're going to be a tough team on the 6A side. Smaller schools, some might surprise, some not. Obviously, I saw them for the very first scrimmage. So a lot of these schools are going to be much better even this week than they were. But smaller schools, Fairleigh is a team that actually went to a 7-on-7 camp as a part of us as well.
Great coaching staff over there, too.
Good coaching staff. I think they might surprise some people this year. But to be honest with you, all the teams participated. Some are young. Some of them numbers are very small, right? You know this. That's part of it. The world we live in. It's hard to have a successful football program when you only got 16, 17 guys showing up. So we had some of those. But what we were able to do is provide scrimmages for a team like that it would have been hard for them to get a scrimmage otherwise. It'd be hard for them to have some of that we were able to provide, even though they have a small number, very minimal resources.
If anybody wants to reach out and say, hey, I want to participate, who do they reach out to?
Yeah, so if you want to reach out, participate, be a part of FCA, you can reach out to me. My name is Jeremy Wilbur, as he said. Email is jwilbur@fca.org. Or you can go to our website, which is memphisfca.org. Or you can also email memphisfca@fca.org. If you want to be a part to serve, we might talk about that. But all the teams that participate in our camp are all open and willing to have somebody come out and invest in their guys or invest in their girls. That's why we do it, to give us an open door to provide that. So if you want to be a part, serve a part of FCA, volunteer, come alongside, see what we do, love to have you reach out.
Or if any teams, same way?
If teams want to reach out, same thing.
Yeah.
Easiest thing, reach out to myself. Or most of the teams, you actually have an FCA staff person that is going to be involved with your school. So we have a guy named Rendon Bradley who oversees our ministry for our urban area. So the majority of schools in our area would reach out to him. Same thing, you can find his information on our website, memphisfca.org. But private schools, municipal schools, I would be the contact right now.
I got you. Take two. All right, my take three with Jeremy is going to be a little bit of storytelling a little bit. Jeremy, like we talked about, I was part of SCA in high school with the club. I knew of SCA, through other people, like you said, they weren't that popular in the early 2000s when I was in school, but now they're growing nonstop. So a little bit of story for you. I'll tell you a little bit of story of a background. I know we only got a few minutes to spare, but we can share a little bit of story. But I was at Sheffield High School, with Coach K over there. I know they get their own SCA guy,
Jonathan Benson's a volunteer.
Yeah. And long story short, Coach K invited me over because they were struggling, with numbers. They weren't winning on the scoreboard. They were basically being competitive, but just not getting over the hump, if that makes sense. So I known Coach K, the coach over there, pretty much the last 8 or 9 years or so, and he said, hey, Jonathan, I'd like for you to come out and say something to the team, regarding some stuff. And I'm like, all right, what do you want me to say? He said, just tell them a little bit of your background and just tell them that what you do for the high school community, and that type of stuff. Well, when I was managing the basketball team, like we talked about in high school, I've always said they always said that you got to put these in order. You know, basically academics come first, you know, and then God, and then, you know, sports can always come later. So I always share that message with the players, you know, and whatnot. And I was like, just so much encouraged by these players that came to me right after I spoke to them and just said, hey, I'm scared because of grades, you know, and whatnot. I'm scared that, you know, because back then the NCAA had a requirement, you know, GPA 2.5 or an ACT score of 18 to get into college. Yeah, I know coach is looking at my grades, but how do I basically impress or tell the coach that I need to focus on this? Well, I had about 20 or so football players reach out to me like right after I spoke on Twitter. I'm like, how do I get my Twitter name? You know, I didn't share it with them because I didn't want to share it with them right off the bat. Well, it turns out Coach K, you know, gave him my Twitter name, and just like that's a cool story, like you said. You know, there's so many great stories with FCA and just motivating these kids. Do you have any encouragement or stories you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, for us, you know, it's the same. Like, we go in and we want them to understand. I mean, you kind of mentioned, obviously, sport is important,
Yeah.
right? But there's a reason even for us. We say fellowship with Christian athletes, right? We want them to understand before sport. Now, let's understand who Christ is. Let's understand that He's the one that's giving you the talents and abilities to come out and play whatever sport it is
Right.
that you play, right? And so for us, just like you, when we go and share and talk with these guys, I mean, a few stories, right? I can remember a story of a guy that obviously did not have a father figure in his home, right, and struggled with that. And after speaking, we talked that day on the father that Christ is, right, that God is the creator, that even though we feel like we might not have a dad, we do in him. And as we're leaving, he actually ran out the locker room outside, tracked us down and said, hey, man, can you give me a Bible, because I want to know what it's like to have a dad, right?
Right.
Just a small story, or guys that come up when they realize that you're there and you love on them, and they actually say, you know, I had a kid once, I was at a school, and the kid was, he was struggling at football practice, and the coach in a roundabout way told, hey, Jeremy, you just pull him to the side. Yeah. Well, come to find out, he was facing potentially going to jail. He admitted that he just had a hard time, like he liked stealing stuff. And he's like, man, I'm a thief, right? Like when I go to the store, my first thought is, what can I steal? But that kid never really had somebody to sit down with him and taught him to understand, man, there's more to life than what you see right in front of you. All right? There's more than life than looking at, maybe that's what you've seen, but you can change the direction of your family, of your life, right, based on the choices you made. And to be able to have a conversation with him, didn't even really know me much, but he opened up very quickly and said, hey, I struggle with this, and I won't help. I just don't know what to do otherwise. And so that provided opportunity for us to love on him, encourage him. And like I said, you lose contact when guys go to college and different stuff sometimes because there's so many kids in the area. But that's just one story, a couple of stories of kids that, similar to yours, that, man, they realized, hey, there's somebody here to love on me.
Right.
There's somebody here that cares for me more than my statistics, more than what I might bring them. They just care and want me to be successful in life, nothing to do with sports. They gravitated to that. Kids want structure even though they act like they don't, right?
Absolutely.
They don't want to act the way that they do, but not to go in too deep, but that's what they're always told. They look on the news, they look on this person, ask this person, and they're told what? You're supposed to be, you're not going to pan out anything, you can't make good grades, you don't know how to be respectful, you don't know how to clean up. Well, if you're told that enough, what do you convince yourself?
Well, you're doing an
That's what
amazing.
I am.
Yeah, you're doing an amazing job.
I'm doing an amazing job at what they tell me I am, right? So the goal is to change that.
Absolutely. Okay, you got an event on Monday. What kind of event do you have on Monday?
Yeah, so on Monday we do a big high school golf tournament. We've done it for years. We actually now are naming it after Phil Dane. I don't know how much you pay attention to golf, but Phil Dane, he was an athletic
I
director
didn't watch
at
the
UT
golf
Martin.
because of you versus
But he was athletic director at UT Martin for years. Moved here the last couple of years. Has actually coached the homeschool team, helped with the Lakeland golf team. But he loved golf, loved kids. And so yeah, we got a big high school golf tournament. We got 28 high schools represented. Playing at Memphis National. We got a morning flight and an afternoon flight based on what worked for the schools. I think we're at 163, 165 golfers participating, both male and female. So that's at Memphis National. Anybody wants to watch high school golf, come hang out.
And what's the tee time?
So tee time of the morning round, they have shotgun start at 8 a.m. The afternoon, the shotgun start at 1:30.
Well, if anybody wants to go watch some golf, feel free to go
Watch some good high school golf.
Absolutely. Take 3.
Okay, back with take 4, and The host in this seat looks much better now with Thomas Ellis here. Jeremy, once again, appreciate you coming in.
Sir.
I really only have two questions for you. After listening to you and Jonathan talk, the landscape of what you have to do, I think is much tougher because I would just come out and say there's an attack on Christianity by our society. It seems to be pushed in the background. Don't put your faith out there. So what is one thing that has really gotten tough for y'all to do what y'all do now?
Yeah, so, obviously we're competing with,
Phones,
as you
social
said,
media.
yeah, I mean, you've got social medias, you've got phones, you've got, a lot of pushback for Christianity, but, you go and speak to a team. Used to, you went and spoke to a team, you had their attention.
Yeah.
Nowadays, to be honest with you, coaches and other people, they're afraid to take a phone away from a kid because of what he might say. So you're dealing with phones, or they got earbuds in their ear the whole time you're trying to talk. Now, how we overcome that is, you just consistent and love them, right? You consistent love on them, talk about character things. That way, hey, they might not want anything to do with Christianity, but from a coach, from a kid, they all want to have integrity. They want to know what it means to be disciplined. They want to know what it means to have respect. So we talk on those things, and then once we kind of build that relationship, then we can tie in the from our aspect, right, the most important thing to Christianity. So.
Okay. Now, the old saying that more things change, more they stay the same. What's that one thing about the kids that's still consistent that you saw from day one that you see in a child today?
Kids are kids. They want to be loved. They want to be respected. They don't want to be looked at as, hey, you're just a kid, you can't do this or you can't do that. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? Kids.
I was once a teenager, so I did.
Yeah, I mean, we were all kids, right? We get a misperception. We look like, man, why are kids acting like that?
Yeah.
Well, they're kids, right? The one thing about a kid now and a kid 16 years ago when I started with FCA, or a teenager, right? Whatever you want to call that.
Yeah.
Is they're a teenager. They have issues. Girl issues, drug issues, alcohol,
peer pressure.
They deal with the same thing. Peer pressure is there. But the one thing they all want back then and they want now is they want to be loved.
Wow.
They want to know that there's somebody outside of the sport that they play.
I would tell the kids out there, especially who are looking at us today, you see us with a little salt and pepper.
Right.
And there was one point in time people weren't going to trust us with keys to a building, put us in charge of anything. Now we both sit here with a title. Hey, even look at it this way. Jonathan Sturdivant is hosting a show every week. So there's hope for anybody out there. Jonathan's not around it. But what I'm saying is this: we all go through our peer pressures and things that we go through as a kid, but we need groups and organizations like yours to give us hope. And Jonathan shared his story, his testimony, even when he got his team award, just things like that he shared like that. That encouragement means a lot. So my last question for you, just tell everybody how important encouragement is and how sometimes you're being watched and you don't even know that you're being watched.
Yeah, so put it this way, I do a thing when I speak to teams called a spotlight drill. And it's all based on the fact that kids, adults, we don't know how to encourage and we're not used to getting encouraged.
Yeah.
So when I go speak to a team, I bring a coach up, I start with the head coach, and I have the head coach stand in front of his team. And I ask them, I tell the kids, look, you have to look at the coach and say, I love and appreciate you and here's why. And it can't be because you're a good football coach. It's got to be, and I've heard kids look at a coach with a coach tears in his eyes and say, hey, I love and appreciate you because you're the closest thing I have to a dad. Or I love and appreciate you because of this. And then what do? Then I bring the athletes. I start with the captain. Or maybe there's a kid that's had a rough week and the coach says, hey, he needs some encouragement. To put that kid in front of his teammates who he thinks don't even pay attention, right?
Yeah.
Sit there and say, hey, I love and appreciate you. Or, man, I love and appreciate you because I see how you come to work every day knowing you're never going to step foot on the field. And I've had kids and adults, coaches. I don't do it to make them cry, but I do it to prove a point to say, hey, man, we struggle. And sometimes that kid stands there and only one or two people say stuff. And that's when I remind them of what you said. Man, people are watching what you do, right? Live a life to where people have something positive to say about you. So
And we call it giving flowers at my church.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take this opportunity to close out. I make fun of Jonathan a lot, but we wouldn't have this show if it wasn't for him. He gets wonderful guests like this. He's always on the grind, and he definitely stands up for those kids. You kids out there, he wants to see y'all do wonderful things. So for me to be associated with that, and sometimes I get dragged along, but to tag along with him on it, it's a wonderful thing, and today is a very special show because of him. So Jonathan, appreciate you, man. I'm giving you flowers while I can. So keep up the wonderful work and touching base with folks, because every little bit that you do, it's going to eventually turn into something bigger and greater. Jeremy, man, we really appreciate you coming in.
No, thank you.
And sharing a moment with us on the Jazz Report.
Yeah, thank you. You know, guys, y'all actually have an opportunity to be a very good team. Y'all got to treat each other well, stop taking candy and messing with desks, but I really think y'all gonna make a great team.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it. I guess he's right.
Yeah, he's always right. He's the director.